going to take a few minutes to debrief. Councilor?
Well, that was a really tremendous job that you've done. And you know, most of the time we don't talk about participation. And what is a good participation score? What do you have to do to get a good participation score? Okay, so there are 6 of you on that panel. And we all asked 3 questions apiece. Sometimes we have 3 people and we ask 2 questions apiece. So what does that mean? It means you were very efficient in the way that you answered your questions. There wasn't any filler as you were thinking, well, what are we going to say? Every word counted. You all got to say something. That's what really good participation looks like. If anyone wants to know what a model of that is, here you've got one in front of you. And you were similarly efficient in your prepared statement. You covered all the grounds, and you didn't just say, well, ambition checks ambition and limited government. Why is limited government important? Well, because it fights tyranny. And deliberation is good, but also sometimes there's stalling. It was a very good understanding of a complex set of arrangements that you presented out there for us. And you understood the differences between the British and American systems very well. Now, I've been asking the question about JFK and Dulles all day. Yours was the best response to that, because you really understood the difference in the cabinet systems between. And not only that, you said, well, one, the Prime Minister may be more accountable, or maybe he's less accountable. Maybe the President is gets to shift the buck, maybe, because he makes it look like the cabinet member failed. I mean, that's exactly right. It's a very sophisticated understanding. I'm trying to ask questions you haven't anticipated. I doubt you expected that question. But you did a wonderful job with it. And then you raised all kinds of parts about the Constitution, that the census is why we have to have reapportionment, and the 12th Amendment, and the 25th, and we talked about the 22nd Amendment. I thought there's no way you would have expected a question on the 22nd Amendment. And what happens? We have a discourse about the Federalist Papers, and what Hamilton said about term limits. And I said, well, it's hard to sneak one past these days. and you understood the trustee and the delegate. You really we're supposed to try to say something where you could do something better or whatever. I can't really tell you that you could have done anything better. So individually and collectively, you did a fantastic job. You should feel great about how you did.
I absolutely agree. And things that delighted me were, for example, the lame duck amendment, Reagan's commentary on that. Where that came from, I have no idea. You just were pulling things out of the hat all afternoon. I just want you to look around this room and be aware that you're in a very small club of people who have sat at that table and talked to people on this side of the bench. I know we're not members of Congress, but maybe you will be sitting on this side of the bench next time you come to Congress. I hope you will think about representing your neighbors and friends, and maybe even doing so here, because you have shown a wonderful understanding of politics and the Constitution and the responsibility of such people, and we would be very well served to have your assistance if you were to do so. And if you don't choose to do that, I know you'll be exceptionally wonderful citizens. So thank you very much.
I thought your opening remarks and also your responses were the vocal equivalent of Riverdance. We had to listen very fast, and it was just replete with wonderful examples. And it's not just throwing out terms and things. I think you conceptualized it, and there's a big difference there. More specifically, Gene, I like your use. You are a very good advocate of the parliamentary system. You brought up some very good things there. And I like the fact that you were talking about the Supreme Court trying to grapple with partisan gerrymandering. I don't think anybody mentioned Davis versus Vandermeer, but that would have been a good case to mention. But you did hammer home the problem that it just, as the court has dealt with, it cannot be dealt with. I like the fact you brought up the the debates in England between the Conservatives, the Liberals, and the Labour Party, and how that's, I mean, that shows currency and how it implemented. Warren, I like your discussion of veto power, the Madison 52, those went different on that one. You talked about the hyper-partisanism that we see today. Your reference to the healthcare being not one Republican voting for it, but I think it would be fair to say that it was bipartisan opposition to it. You disagreed, you know, you weren't afraid to disagree with your colleagues when necessary, and with me throughout the amendments, and I think Ariel, you caught on that one, and it was very good. Catherine talked about the census and gerrymandering. Your discussion was right on, spot on. And how to represent your people. How do we represent if you're a delegate? And you mentioned how they can respond to their constituents. I thought that was good. You talked about the internet. Of course, in the old days they didn't have those. It might not, but it is difficult to determine what your people want. Hannah, you talk about the independence of the presidency. I like that. You talked about the delegate role, the trustee role. You talked about the lame duck 22nd Amendment. Folks, we don't stress that 22nd Amendment enough. Think about this. You've got a 4-year term. First year is the best time to accomplish something. It's a honeymoon period. Second year is a midterm election. Hard to get anything done. Your best year to get anything accomplished is the 3rd year, because now you got seasoning and you now have that election underway. 4th year rolls around, nothing gets done because it's a presidential election year. If you're unfortunate enough to get reelected, your 5th year is a good year to accomplish something, but the 6th year is, guess what? Midterm election, and the 7th and 8th year is lame duck, and even your own party members don't know who you are. They bail out on you. There's something to that, and I'm glad, I thought I would catch you on that, and you really surprised me, as Fred said. Ariel, again, Electoral College, being a former member of the Electoral College, I'm glad somebody talked about that and the independence thereof. You can't be a member of Congress or a federal employee when you're a member of the Electoral College. But you also talked about the 12th Amendment. I thought that was wonderful. And you knew your provision of the Constitution. And Peter, Baker versus Carr. But I'm glad you made a distinction between Westbury versus Sanders and Gray versus Sanders. Most people don't do that. They throw this out. There is a fine distinction between what the court said, and each one built upon the other, and I'm glad you brought that in. And the idea of representation, you're talking about maybe it would be better if we had smaller districts. The problem is we run out of seats here in the legislature. So I think you did a great job. And the final thing is, what do members of Congress represent? When you're sworn in as a member of Congress, you're not sworn in to represent your district. And you're not sworn in to represent your state. You're representing the Constitution. You're sworn to uphold the Constitution. That's something we should all remember. You did a great job. You're well coached. It's over.